The various
Let's go. It's your host, Nick Perrette, and you're listening to Commercial Roofing Radio. This is the hottest radio station in the roofing world. We are your favorite place to hang out, learn, and shoot the shit. So sit back in your truck's chair, relax, and enjoy the show. Here we go. We have a roofing legend in the building today. We got Dave Sullivan. So Dave Sullivan actually grew up in a small roofing company that was actually originally opened in 1924. That is crazy to think about. That was almost 100 years ago. The plan was to, graduate college and then, have his dad show him the ropes of how to run the roofing company. Unfortunately, his dad did have a heart attack when he graduated from the University of Cal Berkeley, and Dave was kind of thrown into the fire of, taking over the business. At that time, the company had about 10 employees. He was able to scale it all the way up to over 100 employees at the time when they first started in business or when he first took over. They were doing pretty much everything. They were doing residential, commercial, you name it, they were doing it. Dave actually hired a consultant to help him realize where his business was profitable. And he started to focus on those areas. He took the business and started focusing on commercial and then really focusing on the ideal target audience. So he focused on people like property owners who understood, quality, was willing to pay for that. And they also believed in things like maintenance programs. So he was able to create a great business there. He became, one of the premier roofing companies in Northern California. They installed over $150 million of roofing over the years. Now Dave is I guess, living the good life. Seems like he's always doing something, vacations. And in between that, he's doing consulting. He's helping other businesses grow as well from what he learned through his time. And he's also the host of the Roofer Show. He's been going forever, it seems like. He's got to have the most episodes out of anybody. He beat us out. He's got to be at about 260 episodes or something like that. So welcome, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks to see you. Good to see you, Nick.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure. So, you seem like a pretty interesting dude, though. So, obviously, everybody knows you for the roofing side of things. But so you're kind of a big traveler, it seems like. You like to do the mountains. You're a skier. What do you like to do outside of the roofing world?
Well, that was the one thing that I really wanted to get out of my business when I built this. And, we talk about my father where he would say, hey, when I retire, I'm going to do this traveling, do all these things. And, the way it works is when you're young, you got the time, but you don't have the money. Then you've got the money, but you don't have the time. Then you retire, whatever. You get the time, you get the money, but you don't have the health. And that's what happened to him. And I said, love to ski. Been skiing all my life. Love to travel. So I said, well, I'm going to build this business so it doesn't require me to be there all the time. That rake structure of business where all the decisions have to go through you. So I wanted to do it differently and start traveling. And there's always some roofing conference going on around the world, So every year there was one in Germany in a different city. So I'd go over there. And Paris, Italy, it's amazing. So anyway, I was able to tie in a lot of this to business. I've got 3 boys. I was able to bring one of my sons with me when I traveled, and that was awesome. And that's what I wanted to do, was have time to, be there when my 3 kids were growing up. I wanted to be able to, have that free time to do what I wanted. And that requires some real planning, and having that consultant in there, as you say, business coach, we really achieved that. And he kept me on track, and we built that out where it's a pretty successful business.
So You were able to create kind of the lifestyle that you wanted to live while operating the business, while scaling the business, I should say too, which is even more important to point out. I think a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of create their own prison, if you will, or create their own job, right? They think they're going to have this great lifestyle, and they almost forget why they're doing it, right? And all of a sudden they're just busy, nonstop. Do you think that hiring that consultant was a great way to help you kind of get to that point, or was there other resources that you thought were able to help you think differently, operate differently to get there?
Well, what changed everything was just putting together a business plan and going through the process of planning, which is really critical. And this is what I do with the contractors that I work with. And I would say most every one of them comes to me and says, I want to scale my business, because that's all you hear about. Every podcast is talking about scale. Top line revenue. Well, nobody talks about profitability. And I know a lot of large contractors that don't make any money. I mean, what's the point in doing that? I don't want to be the biggest guy in town. I want to be the most profitable. And if I can do that, doing less work, making more, I'm all for it. Because once you start scaling out, even the word scale is just so overused. You want to have some growth in your business, but you got to have controlled growth. And, you have to make profit to grow your business. You don't grow your business to make profit. It doesn't work like that. And so what I do with the clients that I work with, we start building a strong foundation. We get it to be profitable, put the systems and processes in place, and then you can grow your business. You've got something solid. But what happens is, they're just, you're growing too fast. So you're throwing, B and C players out there. You're not being productive. You start running into cash flow problems. I don't care what size you are. Cash is always an issue. And, then you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And that's what I always start with, is we start at the end. We got to get down to our why. What does that really mean? What does success mean to you? And it's different for everybody. And, I love the contractors that I work with, particularly the smaller ones that are doing, say, you could do, $2.5 million out of your house, and have that lifestyle balance and be able to do what you want. So many contractors have little kids, families. That's important to them. But maybe you want to be the biggest guy in town, hey, great. Well, we can get you to do that, but you're going to be giving up a lot to do that.
I think that's a difficult part, in all honesty, when you're an entrepreneur too, is figuring out why you're doing it. What does success mean to you? Do you have any advice on that? Because sometimes I even wonder, I'm 30 years old and this is my 5th year in business. I even sometimes wonder, I think even as you're developing and changing, what does success mean to you?
Well, everybody's going to decide that for themselves, and you've really got to take some time and think why you're doing this. And most contractors, they don't have any idea. They don't know where they're going. So if you don't know where they're going, any road will take you there. It doesn't matter, right? But having a destination, at least a short term, and if you're starting a business, your goal is to stay in business for 2 years, because most contractors don't. They go out of business within 2 years. So that changes. And then we get into, I have contractors that are in their 50s and starting to think about exiting their business. And that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of planning. So maybe that's where some people are. So it's different for everybody else. Like yourself, I don't know. You've got to decide that. What, do you want to be the biggest guy in town, be able to beat your chest and say, oh, look at me, big ego? Hey, great. Or, I want to have more of a lifestyle business because these are the things that I want to do, because your business can do any of that for you. And I tell contractors, you've got a blank canvas. You can draw anything you want, but you have to plan for it. You have to be clear and you have to be focused. And it takes a hell of a lot of work, but you've got to start. And that's really stepping back, seeing the big picture, really thinking this through. And this is why we always talk about it's the process of planning that's so important. Is this really what I want? In my business planning, I've got 8 steps on this plan. And the last one I call the end. I call the view. And I know a lot of contractors that have gotten to that end. They work their ass off all year long, all these years. They get to the top of the mountaintop, and they go, I'm here. And they go, this is it. And so
that's crazy. Yeah.
Here you are, maybe you're, now you're home with your wife for the first time, driving each other crazy. You don't know what to do. All you've done is work. You don't really have any friendships outside of the business. You don't have any hobbies that you've developed or any interests. And what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is crazy. And I think sometimes you almost have to reach those goals and have that weird empty feeling of lack of satisfaction, I guess, from achieving them, to start understanding that too. So, I think, be flexible on the vision. It might change as you learn and grow throughout your business career. But yeah, sometimes you just have to, unfortunately, hit some goals and realize there's not much to it, and start to realize, what is important. One thing I wanted to ask you, of course, about is the podcasting. All right. So, you've done, 260 episodes or so. Quite a bit of content, right? A lot of consistency there. What do you think you've learned in your time as a podcast host?
It's really hard to be consistent, to put out a podcast week after week after week, and this is just like business, it's about consistency. It's about doing those little things. And, half the time probably I just get on and start talking. And I like to talk about the coaching calls that I've had that week, for instance, because they're really interesting, and how we're dealing with these problems, because we all face the same issues for the most part, and what they go through. And again, we want to learn from the experience of others, not our own. I mean, it's a hell of a lot easier, right? So learn from these what other people are doing. So this is why we have peer groups. We call them the Roofer Mastermind, and we put groups together, and we all feed off of each other, what best practices, what's working, what's not working, and we come up with our processes. And it's basically just it's a checklist is what a process is. And we've been working on our sales process with our groups, and it's just step by step by step. This is how we're going to do it, and it's written out. We record it, so it's simple to understand. And when we're hiring new people, there's a whole process for that, but we find the person, we can say, hey, here you go. This is how we do it in our business. It's like McDonald's, they've got standard operating procedure. It's 1,000 pages long, but it tells you how to put the pickles on, how much ketchup. It's a franchise, and this is what you want to have, where everybody understands the way that we do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the value in your business, right? Those systems and processes, that's where the true value of your business comes from.
And this is really what we do. From day one, you're building a business to sell. And that's the way that you have to look at it, because you have to build in value. Over 90% of contractors get to the end thinking that their business is worth all this money. Well, it's not worth squat without you, because you've never built these processes. You've never built a team of people that run the business without yourself. And this is why it's so important. I focus on this thing every year. I want to see my contractors take a 2-week vacation. Okay, summer vacation. You take 2 weeks off. Well, I could never do that. My business would fall apart. Then you don't have a business. You've got a job. So this is what we focus on. How do you remove yourself? And once you do that, you're building value. And you have to have all of those systems, all those processes in place. And it's like a machine.
So what components do you think make an actual sellable business? So is it processes, people? Is there any other components that you think go into what it makes an actual sellable company?
Yeah. I mean, it really, one is that you've got to be profitable. Okay. And they're going to want to see clean financials, and preferably 5 years of, good finance. What I mean by that is it's organized so people can read it. I mean, it's so many contractors, their financials were never set up correctly. So you're trying to see what's going on. It's difficult to follow. So if you run a profitable, well-run business where an investor can say, I can see what these guys are doing. They've got their act together. They've been profitable. They've been growing. Okay, now there's something that I can buy. They've got great people, so maybe what you've got, and what I think has real value is a maintenance department. Okay, if you can build a solid maintenance department where you've got reoccurring income, you've got, control of your clients, because oh yeah, I've got this great customer list. Well, that customer list is not worth squat when you're gone, because they're just going to go to other people. They're going to leave. Are your employees going to leave when you're gone? And this is why you have to build this so carefully. You've got to have A players. You've got to really have your positions defined, have the right positions, have the right people in those positions, and have good crews that can go out and produce jobs. But if you subcontract all your work and you're just a bidder, what do you got? You got a bunch of old beat up trucks that aren't worth squat. But there's no value that's built in. So you need to build something of value when you're not there. And you look at it, if I'm an investor, what am I buying and how am I going to make a return without me going in there and having to do all this work?
If anybody, like basically Dave just said in the beginning, hey, you should be building this thing to sell, right? Some kind of exit strategy is a good idea to have. And now he's saying, hey, these are the components to put together a plan that actually allows you to sell the company. So be thinking about that. Think about those components as you build the company, right? With a goal of hopefully exiting one day. Dave, so I do want to ask you on favorite projects. Do you have any favorite projects that come to mind from your time in this space, in the roofing space?
So we're talking about roofing projects?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we were, we talked about, hey, the riches are in the niches, where I really believe in niching down and doing what you do well and do profitably. And I talk about on the podcast when we started off, and you had mentioned it, this family business, we were doing everything, trying to be, jack of all trades, master of none. And we would come off a large commercial job, and then next thing the crew would go on a small, somebody's home, and they just trash the place. They're trying to get production and so forth. It's a different mindset. So we just weren't very good at it. So when my consultant came in, the first thing we do is take a look at these various profit centers or loss centers in a lot of cases. But you've got to break these things out. Let's say we do residential, we do commercial, maybe we do siding. Well, those are three different profit centers, three different divisions. And when you break those out, I usually find that one is contractors are doing too many things, and some of them are not doing well. And I find where dealing with a contractor the other day, he's doing siding. Go, well, how much of your business is in siding? And it's about 10%. Well, how much time do you spend on it? He says, well, about 30% of my time, because we keep screwing it up. We have these problems. I can't get a good sub to do this. So drop it. Focus on what you do well and where you're profitable. And that's what we did. So we cleared out all the BS. And where we found that we were really our niche was in what I call the mid-sized market. And our average job size was, really about $75,000, $80,000. And so we were able to go negotiate re-roofing projects with building owners. And that was what we really specialized in, where we can speak with somebody that appreciates the value. They're investors, so they want long-term work on their buildings. And so we can set up maintenance programs. They're interested in upgrading their roofs. And throughout the, there's a lot of them around. And we didn't do any new construction. That's a disaster. We didn't do any big box stores, that attract 30 contractors that come in and bang everybody down so nobody makes any money on it. So we found that this was our best market, where we're hitting singles and doubles every day. And, we're not trying to go for the fences with these big projects that we can't make any money on. So what's the point in that? You're taking all this risk. You're tying up your people all summer long on a project that's not making any money. It's crazy. So we can just keep banging these things out. And that's what we did. We focused on building our maintenance department. And I was really proud of that, where that really changed everything. And we did a lot of repair, a lot of maintenance, coating work, and it's profitable, low risk, great part of the business. So it's hard to say. I didn't really have any one particular project, because we try to keep them the same. I'm not looking. I had one guy that was a salesman for me, and
you built a system.
What I call, he was always looking for what I call the trophy projects. He
That's
wanted
a good
to have
point.
his name on it. He wanted to have this big project. So look at me, I could put this in the magazine. I sold this job. I don't care about that. Is it profitable? You can't make any money on it. What's the point? I don't care.
Fundamentals.
If our name's on it or not.
Yeah, fundamentals. You're trying to do the bounce pass, right? You're not trying to get fancy over here. You're doing the fundamentals, and it works every time, right?
And I say, if you're doing it right, business should be boring. You're just in that routine doing it.
Good business is boring. Efficient.
Good, it is. And, you say, well, I don't want to have a boring business. Well, I want to have a profitable business, because I can do anything I want now. If you've got that ability, and you've got the time, and you've got a great organization. But it's a little boring, but that's because we're doing it well. We're doing the same thing. We're consistent, doing the small things right.
So I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I thought if I was going to start a commercial roofing company, I would, wherever my target market is, let's just say I'm in Milwaukee, I'm getting all the property owners there, right, the commercial property owners. So I'm going to the database, and I'm reaching out to all these people, and I'm just offering like maintenance programs, and I'm signing up as many as I can of them on maintenance programs to get my portfolio built out, become friends with all of them, and then go from there. Good idea, okay idea. What feedback do you have on that?
Yeah, and again, the reason why I think you've got to focus on these, because these are different. It's a different market. You're talking about a different ideal customer that you're marketing to, as opposed to the residential. So you've got to be clear on who your ideal customer is. Who are you marketing to? Then we've got to figure out where they hang out. Now, for instance, your business, and I've got a lot of contractors that are using, commercial, that are using your services. Give you a little plug, because it's the right thing to do. You're able to pull up those individual owners, and those are the guys that we want to target. And you've done it in a way where this is the same way we did our marketing. We used a program called CoStar back then, but you can see through tax records every building, and you can tell who the owner is. And that's gold, and you can see how big the building is. You can, sort it by age, size, whatever it is that you're looking for. And that's why we have to know our ideal customer. What is it that we're looking for? And with using your program, we can just dial that down, and we can focus our message to each one of those people. So that's really the best way, but it takes a lot of time. And commercial relationships, they take a long time. And, if you're going to focus on industrial, for instance, these chief engineers, property managers, they just turn all the time. So it's difficult to establish relationships, and it's hard. And that's why we went after the owners, the investors, and there's a lot of them out there.
So if I'm just starting a commercial company though, and I need to get revenue and start building relationships, would you do that maintenance program route, or would you just start going after bigger projects, get revenue in, and what would you do?
You're starting off, you got to get out there. I mean, it's guerrilla marketing, right?
Knocking doors.
It's tough, and this is where everybody wants. Everybody wants to get into the commercial market, and it's not necessarily any better than the residential market. It's they're both difficult, and it's not but they like the big jobs. Well, I don't mean to be a downer on this, but it just
it's just being honesty, though, right? It is good because I'll say this though too. Before you go too deep in it, we had the same issue with our company, right? And this is why we went through the name change. We were offering too many services, right? We offered 5 or 6 services. It was so hard to keep getting better at each one of them. Right. We're like, screw it. We're making most of our money in these 2 right here, and we slimmed down to everything. We changed the name for it. We simplified, and it just made everything so much easier for us, our clients. So what he's saying is true. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, and the way that we're doing it is we're able, if you can get us on the building, okay, and that's the thing. Well, why would give me a free roof inspection? Nobody wants that. Have a product. So we have, our 10-step roof tune-up, okay? And if it only starts with cleaning the drains, okay, you can we've got enough articles and pictures of roofs collapsing because the drains weren't clear. We want to get on that roof, okay? Because once we get on the roof, I don't care what roof it is, there's always work to be done. And this is what you have to be looking for. So the way that we look at it is really a 3-step process. Is first, we need to repair the roof, stop the leak, whatever it is, clean the drains, do something, okay? Get on that roof with, and that's why I think some kind of a product that makes sense, that's not too expensive, that people will say, oh, okay, go ahead and try it. If you can get up on that roof, you're going to fix the leaks. Next step is we have to bring that roof up to a maintainable condition. And what that means, I explain it as, have you ever bought a new set of tires and you're driving along and all of a sudden you notice that the tire's been out of alignment and you've got that little strip on the outside edge. Now you got to replace the tire, even though 10% is screwed up. And that's how roofs are. Roofs don't wear evenly. So the way we explain this is it's just like the tire. If we can get in here, bring the roof up to a maintainable condition, because we know the flashings and certain types of problems are going to create trouble for us. That's what's going to wear out first. So once we bring that roof up to a maintainable condition, we have control of the client. We've fenced in that client so we don't have him, and over time, whether we do a regular, an annual maintenance program, come out there, however that is, we're in touch, we're controlling that deal, and we can budget out and say, hey, you got about 5 years left in this roof. And what we want to do is we're going to put some kind of a coating on to extend the life of that roof. We're trying to avoid you ever having to make that capital expenditure of having to replace the roof. If we can, with proper maintenance, your roof will last forever. But that makes sense. And it's really as simple as that. And then we can build that in. We've got this client. And also, if you're focused on the right clients, we get the right people, they're going to refer you to like-minded property owners. Okay, and these are the guys, the same thing. And we want our customers to say, hey, if you want cheap work, these are not the guys. But if you want to have problems solved, somebody that's going to be there, take care of business, call these guys, okay? And if you're working with cheap people, they hang out with cheap people, okay? They're going to send you to cheap, slumlords or whatever. And, you've got to think these things through. And that's how you build a business. And that's how I recommend, our clients do it, is having that process, explaining that to your customer, because they don't understand any of this. They don't know what's going on. Hey, my roof's not leaking. It's fine. But we have to educate our prospects, our customers. We do that through the website. We do that by getting out there, telling our story, showing that we're an expert in the field and we know what we're doing, and we're out there. We're everywhere. We're creating content. That's why I do the podcast. It's just get out there.
Okay, so you slim down your services. You slim down not only your services, but now who you offer those services to, right? That sounds great now that you're profitable, you're able to scale the company. But were there some growing pains in that where you started giving up, certain revenue, certain jobs, you're missing out on money? Was there any pain points there? Because I'm sure that's what most people are worried about when we're talking about slimming down the services.
Well, we're in the roofing business, so it's painful, man. I'll tell you, running a business is painful. It's difficult. I don't care, how big you are, who says what, all these guys that say, hey, this is how you get a well-oiled machine and so forth. It's really hard. It takes a lot of work. So, the Italian in me is coming out, even though I'm Irish. I don't know. Oh, God. Hey, give me the question again here. I'm gonna be honest,
man. You threw me off my game too. To be honest with you, transition. So slimming down the services, right? So now you're giving up revenue, you're passing up job opportunities, right? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a problem. Is when we were doing about 50% of our business was in residential. We couldn't get out of it overnight. But we did phase it out over time and just stopped. We were very, very careful on pre-qualifying those residential jobs that we would look at, and just basically phased them out. And this is why the pre-qualification phase is so important, where you're not going out and trying to be everything to everybody. You're not looking at anything because you're just wasting your time. Spend your time with buyers, people that can afford your services, people that are interested in buying value. But I see so many contractors that I'm so busy. Like that's a badge of honor. No, it's because you're screwed up, and you're spending time on things that you should not be, and focus your efforts on buyers. And so we would go through this and we would plan out, we'd have a strategy based on, and we were a slow growth company, a lot of guys, hey, grow or die. I don't know. How about improve our profit instead? That's how and that's really what we focused on. And it was relatively slow growth, but I didn't want to have a large company because, the fewer people that I can have, the better. Every time you hire a new person, there's just one more variable in the mix, and you got another truck going down the highway, that can, and I'm looking for risk aversion. Okay. So we had slow growth. We worked on profitability. We did what we could handle, and we had a big jump one year, and this was a big jump. What I mean is 20%, 25% growth. And we didn't make as money as we did the year before. I'm going, what the hell is this about, right? I'm doing more work, but I'm making less money. And I see this a lot where the idea is to work less, make more money, not work more, make less money.
Yeah.
So we actually scaled back and said, hey, we got to get back into control where our comfort zone is. And a lot of people would disagree with that philosophy, but that's great. But this is what success meant to me, and that's how I wanted to run my business, and I did. But it's not for everybody. It's not a universal strategy.
So I mean, I was going to ask you too, and I think you might have already kind of answered the question was, how did you get to the point? Well, you grew this business, but you were also able to take so much time for vacation. It was just pretty much just simplifying the business. It seems like building out the processes, simplifying the business, and you were able to kind of get to that point where you're kind of living that lifestyle that you wanted.
Well, I did that by also creating a culture in the business that people understood that this was my goal. The idea is that I hired the best people. I trained them. I held them accountable. We retained them. And then I get the hell out of the way and let them do their job. And that was the idea. And you could say, well, this guy's out screwing around all the time. He's never here, doesn't care about the business. No, because we were up front. We talked about that. This is what business planning is all about. This is what I want to do, okay? And this is my plan. Now, the question is, they would say, well, what's in it for me? Well, you've got to have something, and you've got to consider that. That's the whole deal, and you've got to understand that. Why would they want to do this, and what's in it for them? They have to see the benefit of them having the responsibility, being able to make those decisions, having a career path that they can follow. And this is what's so important about bringing on good people and keeping them, because particularly now, people want to see, I want to see this to be a career. I'm not just looking at here to summer job type of thing. And you need to show them how they fit in to this business, what a good job looks like, and we're going to hold you accountable, and we're going to have these, whatever it is, whether it's through regular reviews. We did a lot of, running our business by the numbers, and I could see, whether it's sitting there on the beach, frankly, I called them my Maui reports, I can see what's going on in the business through having our KPIs, the reports that I needed to see. I knew, where the deals were, who was selling what. And, we had a good organization that I could see the cash, the collections, who's doing what. And I can just simply, email, make a phone call from wherever it is and say, hey, what's going on with this deal here? This job's getting, it looks like we're going over on our labor. What's happening? And we could, just kind of judge that. My job, I wanted to be the orchestra leader, okay? I've got the orchestra. Everybody knows what to do. They're playing their instruments. They're doing what they should be doing. And I'm just kind of keeping track, keeping tempo.
I think that's I think that's one of the biggest issues that I see is, obviously hiring is a big one, but then retaining those people, right?
Yep.
The retention part is tough, but I think it's one of the most crucial parts to building something that works, right? And I heard a quote. It was, you don't build businesses, you build people, and they build the business, right? So do you have any, I think, retaining those people is focusing on their growth and development and making that definitely a priority. Do you have any advice there? Because I feel like even training is lackluster in the space. So, how are you developing your people? Because if you develop them, I feel like it's going to increase the chances of them staying.
Definitely. And you've always got to be recruiting, you've always got to be training, and you've always got to be retaining. And it's each piece of that is critical. You're constantly retaining. You're whether you don't have a position or not, you're building a database of potential people that you can contact. You keep in touch with them. And this is something, so the recruiting, just, one tip, the thing that worked for us was having a clear-cut bonus structure for whether it's a bounty or whatever, because your guys are out there communicating with other roofers or what have you, whether it's at the bar or church, they're talking to all these guys. Most guys bitch about how their company disrespects them, doesn't appreciate them, the two reasons why people leave. It's not over money. And so if our guys are out there promoting our business, saying, hey, we've got the best culture, this is a great organization, you've got a great future here, there's a path for advancement. Those are the things that people want to see. Now, I'm working with a contractor yesterday on retention plans, and it was interesting. One thing he's doing is he's doing the salmon fishing trip, and with his guys, which is great. Except I did that, and I got my guys out there outside the gate, and everybody's getting sick. That didn't work out so well. And so we talked about that. The one thing that did work well for us, which I recommend for everybody, we had a spring carnival. And this was really intended for the kids, for the families. Because, so we would have, clowns and jumpers and the whole thing. Would have, and just an atmosphere that's casual. It's during the day. We're not forcing people to come to, some Christmas dinner that they're uncomfortable at. This is just really casual. Bring your family. And what we found was if you can get their kids and their wives or spouses or whatever to love the way our business operates, it's going to be hard for your guy to leave to somewhere else. Say, hold it, what? They're great guys. So you get the commitment of everybody, and you build that family. So when you're creating retention programs, you've always got to be aware of that. The first thing is you got to be a good guy. You got to like people, know, and you've got to appreciate your people for the hard work that they're doing. And you need to show that constantly. So that was a big one for us, get the whole family involved. The one thing that I did, which I didn't sell roofs or whatever, but I did go out on the projects. And what I like to do is always take something out there, whether it's sandwiches or sodas or whatever. You're always just say, hey, great job, guys. I really appreciate what you're doing here. And we'd talk about the project. But I always like to take one of the younger guys that maybe I didn't know and off to the side and just, hey, how are things going? What's going on? Tell me a little about your family, because I wanted to get to know them and I wanted them to feel appreciated that, and let them know that they've got a future here. And that's just something that never happens because you've got other contractors that are coming by your job sites every day, poaching your guys. They're offering them more money. All of these promises. And if these guys are on the fence, they're going to leave you because everybody's looking to steal your people. And you've got to realize that. And they're going to leave if they don't feel appreciated or if they don't feel there's a future here. It's not going to be because somebody gave them an extra $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If your team doesn't like you, you already lost. It's gonna. Yeah. The game's already over, right? If people are talking trash behind your back or something like that, they're like, "We got to get out of here." It's already game over, right? But if you do the real little things to just show appreciation, like you're talking about with the fall fest that you guys always used to have and everything like that, it goes a long way. Or just stopping and asking how they are, right? We do one-on-ones with our people and everything like that, and I try to talk, make time for things that are outside of work. What's going on outside of work, how you doing? Because that's how you build that rapport. And then, you said including the family. Oh, that's such a big one, right? If you're bringing their family members to these events and you're just building this big family that keeps growing, that's going to be hard to leave.
I've been invited to a lot of weddings and, it's you try to create that atmosphere and it's a bond that everybody has together. So you're part of this team, and it's hard to walk away from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey,
it's like before mob.
Dave, before we get into the game part of the show, I wanted to say, hey, you guys, if you guys are looking to make your business more profitable, right? Looking to learn from somebody who's been there, done that. Dave is just doing this for fun. I'm telling you, he enjoys sharing his experience and working with others. He's not trying to get rich off this or something like that. He truly is trying to give back and help. So, if they're interested, Dave, what's the best way to reach out to you and get connected with you?
The best way is to check out my podcast, and that's the Roofer Show. The Roofer Show podcast comes out every Friday with a new show, and you can go to my website at theroofershow.com. And I've got a download on that. I think we talked about it. Check that out. You can download it for free. It's a template, simple, easy, get you started on the process of planning, set up a little business plan, and only take you a couple hours, but get you started on that. So check out the podcast, download the plan, and then get in touch with me. There's go to my contact page, big blue button, click it, take you to my calendar. We'll set up a time to have a quick call. I'd love to hear about your business. No obligation, and probably give you a few tips on what can help you. If it's a good fit, awesome. Tell you about the coaching programs. Otherwise, you can reach me by text. I'd love to hear from you. Just any questions you've got. That's at 510-612-1450. Text me. I'll get right back to you. And that's the best way to get in touch with me.
All right, awesome. Make sure you guys are reaching out to Dave, checking out his show, The Roofer Show, much better than what we got over here. All right, so go tune in over there. He's a great guy, great content.